As Canadians, we have to apologize, right? That's
That's
what
right.
we do.
That's right.
And when you come to Canada, the first question is, what do you do whenever something happens? And it's always the answer is you apologize.
Yeah, that's right. Like I couldn't believe the first time, I was in this class as I told you before, and they told me, say, like in Canada, if you have your own drink and someone spill it, you say sorry. And I said, no, it doesn't work like that in Italy. Like if someone spill you the drink, he's gonna buy you a new one, and you're probably be really upset. They said, no, in Canada you have to say sorry.
Okay, Michele De Rossi. I
Hey,
am going to call you Mike because I'm Chinese and my English is terrible.
don't worry about.
Um, this is probably going to be my favorite podcast because both of us are not from Canada,
That's true.
right? Now, first, I'm going to talk about your mustache. Now, everybody does Movember, right?
Yeah.
And actually, except me, okay? I've been banned from doing Movember. I have even worse facial hair in the world. Like I have like a little bit here. It's a
Yeah.
lot for being Chinese. It's a lot for an Asian dude. It comes down to here, but that's it. And there's a bit of like there's a bit of hair here, but from
Oh,
here to here is like baby smooth. It's like barren, right?
it took me so long to grow this part, and trust me, like that's why I started a mustache, because a long time in 2013 nobody had it. It wasn't like fancy, it wasn't like a hipster, that all this stuff didn't exist in Italy.
Yeah.
So I started, my friends had this massive Viking beard, like you
Yeah.
know important people, like they even have like a different tone of voice when they had that kind of beard. And I couldn't grow a serious beard, and I grow a mustache.
That's good. Now, my wife doesn't like it when I have facial hair. Okay. And one of the things I've never talked about on the podcast, I always shave right before the podcast, right? For whatever
Perfect.
reason, I do it. Uh, but she won't let me do electrolysis. She won't let me do the laser hair removal stuff. Not electrolysis, the laser hair removal. I'm like, if you hate me, uh, if you want me to be clean shaven, and I hate shaving, which guy likes shaving? Why can't we just do what is the best, which is to get it lasered off? And she's like, no, that's not very manly. I'm like, who cares? What do you care? You don't know.
Hey, you can always use reverse psychology and just start to grow a beard, and just piss her off until like she just say, like, just go ahead.
No, you don't know her, my wife. She will. So we have a joke now. Is like for November, she will pay me to keep it off, to keep it clean.
Oh,
She goes, I will donate any amount you want, $100. Go right ahead, as long as you
that's
shave it.
perfect. That's
So,
amazing.
what do you do in November then? Do you shave it off and
Um,
restart or no?
I usually kind of shave my beard, and I just keep and spend more time, on curl the mustache, and give that importance that deserve. And we try to support the cause, with donation and other stuff. So I'm probably the only guy that at the end of November keep the mustache, and maybe you trim it, but you still keep it. But no, it's a good cause. So like. We just try to help as we can, donation and family, friends, and try to collect as much as we can.
Yeah. Now, I met you through Instagram. I did not know at the time that Ohvale was in Canada. Now, I've said this in the past. I've not really been a avid motorcycle enthusiast in the last maybe 15 years, right? Life grows on. I have other
Yeah.
stuff. I have other priorities. So I haven't really been following racing or bikes in general. And in fact, it was only last month that I looked at the new price of a CBR 1000 RR, and I'm like, I can't believe this. This is the cost of a Civic, right? Like
Yeah.
or a and I'm like,
Fortune.
who's paying for this today? What's the
And
demographic?
that's the issue. That's the issue in 2020. When we start racing in Italy, like personally, I didn't grow up from a family that had like money that you can throw. Like, you just go to my dad or my mom and say, hey, buy me a bike. No, it doesn't exist. So, I had to work hard. I was working during the summer, during the school breaks, in, weekends. And, finally you can get a bike. It's a used bike. It's usually like a piece of trash, like it's garbage, but it's your bike, right?
Right.
Right now, you go to a dealership and, as you say, like the Honda CBR, uh, it's a city, it's a car. You
Yeah.
live in a country where for 6 to 7 months you have winter, where you can ride a bike. You think about, right?
Yeah. What is the, what is the coldest weather you've ridden a motorcycle in? I'll tell you mine. It was 2 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
I was between cars, and I had full leathers, and I was on Highway 407, which
Yeah.
for people in the States and around the world, it's a toll highway that
Yeah.
nobody takes because no one can afford it. But it was two degrees Celsius. I think I was on the 407. I was doing about 170 kilometers an hour,
Yeah.
and I was freezing my butt off. It was the worst
Oh,
experience of my life.
I can't believe it. Now, for us, so we had a tradition, with the friends when we just had street bikes. So, well, before that we started to go to the track, with the street bike, we had like uh, we call the Santa Claus parade. So basically, we were just putting like a Santa Claus jacket on top of our leathers, and we were going on top of the mountain. And of course,
Oh,
in Italy, during the winter, it's not like minus 28 degree. But usually between Christmas and New Year's, you can get a couple days. It's like -6, but you're riding on top of a mountain, and in Italy it's all like turns, curves, like it's beautiful.
yeah.
But when you get on top, you say, "Yeah, I think I need a grapple, like a shot, like something to warm up,
Yes.
because I don't feel my hands anymore. I'm not gonna come back."
Yeah.
But yeah, we never rode like a bike when it was too dangerous to ride. Asphalt gets what gets cold, and like I saw people riding here as soon that there was a little bit of sun, but was still like
Mm,
minus
yeah.
six. And some people have the necessity to use the bike because they don't have anything else.
Yeah.
But it's cold. It's really cold.
Yeah.
That's something that you're more brave than me.
Yeah, well, again, it was out of necessity. I think that the funniest story I have is when I did my motorcycle safety course
Yeah.
many years ago. I remember my instructor telling me that he used to ride a motorcycle in Alaska because he was the mailman, right? It was either Alaska or Yukon, but anyways, it was very north, right? And he said he had no other choice. He had to deliver the mail, and all he had was a motorcycle. So he had chains on the motorcycle.
Wow.
And I said, "How do you stop?" He goes, "I look for the nearest snowbank." I would just slow down and let the bike slow down, and I would stop at hitting a snowbank. And I
Wow.
don't think he was lying. Like I just imagine that being true.
Hey, I believe it because in Italy, as I don't know if you know this story. All the mailmen they ride a scooter.
Okay, I
So
didn't know that.
other than in Venice, that is like water, and they ride a bicycle because there is no like a motorized vehicle other than boats. They ride a scooter, and they ride a scooter that doesn't matter if it's like -5 or it's 45 degrees Celsius. Like that's how they deliver the mail door to door.
Right.
We don't like, especially in my area where I grew up, but they're not like high rise condo. That is probably the tallest one is like 5 floor.
Mm,
you know, uh, you see just all these mailmen with the scooter going opposite way of the traffic, wrong way, no helmet, no nothing. There are no rules. So that's the way that you grew up. You're a kid, you see these criminals on moped scooter with the Poste Italiana on the side. So it's the mail company, and you just laugh. That's what you want to do when you're a kid.
yeah. No, where exactly did you grow up in Italy? I mean, Italy's so big.
Yeah, so I'm from Cittadella. It's basically it's a city between Padua and Venice, so it's in the northeast of Italy.
Okay.
The city is pretty small. It's like 20,000 people, so
Okay.
it's probably a neighborhood here in Toronto.
Right.
So for me, when I moved here, I said, "Wow, like how big is this city? Like it's impossible to like it's massive, right?" So like there, everybody. Here, it's kind of different, right? You have
Yeah.
4 million people. It kind of change.
Yeah. And only because you're Italian, I'm telling you this. I've always had a big affinity to my Italian friends. I grew up with a lot of Italian neighbors.
Okay.
and they were genuinely the nicest people I've ever met. Like, not I know it's gonna sound bad, but it's definitely nicer than living beside a Chinese guy, right? Like I guarantee. Like my Italian neighbor, and he was an old man when he retired. You know,
Yeah.
I think he was must have been in his at least 60s. Anyways, he didn't have to work, and he would mow my lawn every week.
Yeah.
Right? I'm a younger guy. I'm not gonna mow the lawn or whatever. And then he'd mow the lawn. I go, hey, Mr. A, right? I go, Mr. A. I go like, why you mow my lawn? He goes, look at the size of my grass. Now he didn't have a giant acre of grass. It was just because he lived in the corner, so a
Yeah.
little bit bigger. Okay,
Yeah.
definitely you and I would just mow the lawn like regular people. He
Yeah.
had a sit down mower. He goes, I have a sit down mower because for me to mow your lawn, it's 5 minutes.
That's
He
right.
goes, you're a young guy, you're working, forget about it. He goes, I'll just do it. And he goes,
That's
and I was
perfect.
again, you would never get this from a Chinese guy. Now, a Chinese guy will do it, and he'll be like, "You owe me $20 because I got to put in gas."
So he does first, and after he asks you for the money. What a smart guy. See, that's perfect.
Yeah, no. So I really like Italian. I've only been to Rome, and I've been to Sorrento, which is like south, obviously,
Okay.
you know. Uh, and I talked to an Valerio Piscini
Yeah.
about this. He works for an Energica, you know,
Yeah.
Moto E series,
Yeah.
and so I talked about it. But I love that I love that country. I love the people. I love everything. Other than the parking, because I'm very jealous of the fact that you guys can just park anywhere and walk away.
That's true. That's the hard part. When you grow up over there, and but in general in Europe, like we have a different way of driving, right?
Yeah,
Everything is smaller. Cars are smaller. The city are because of historical, they are smaller. The street are everything is small.
yeah,
And when you get here, like you know, it's multiplied and bigger, and still people can park. That's that's a big issue that I can't understand how it's possible. But at the beginning I was getting so upset when I was driving here because you said how these people are driving, right? They pass you on the right, they stay on the left. What's going on?
yes.
And in Italy you can't do that. That's you
Yeah,
can.
yeah. Passing on on the right on the highway, it's a big no-no. Europeans are freaking out. My
Oh,
UK
yeah.
friends are
They,
they lose it. They're like, I'm gonna go
they
beat this guy up.
follow
Like,
you home.
relax.
They follow you home. You have to be careful doing that kind of stuff.
For sure.
No,
Like
no,
it's like, anyways, yeah.
you're
And
allowed to respect too. Don't worry.
yeah, and you're right. It's perspective. I drove for the longest time. I had a Golf GTI,
Yeah.
and when I drove a Golf, when I first bought my Golf GTI, all my friends are like, "Why are you driving a girl's car? Like, it's like, why are you driving a tiny little car? Like, why don't you get a proper man's car, right? Like." And then I go to Hong Kong, and the Golf GTI is like bigger than like half the cars out there, right? Same thing in Italy.
Same idea. Same idea.
So how long have you been living in Canada now?
So I came here the first time I was November 2014. I came, as I told you, like for a month and a half, just for my business English class, and just my English was awful because when you don't use it, especially in Italy or Europe, that's it. Like other than you go to UK, no.
Right.
So I came here and the last couple of weeks I met the person that right now it's my wife. So I moved back to Italy. I had a business activity over there, so I kind of worked from there. I came here for a little bit more, came back and forth, and at the end of the day, I say, okay, that's it, Canada.
Yeah,
I like it, so it's good. Let's
that's
try to
awesome.
stay here.
No, then that's awesome. I love that. I love that. You know, immigrant mentality, right?
At the beginning it's not easy because a lot of immigrants they come here with a family,
Mm.
and that was for me the biggest challenge because I didn't move it that I was 15 or 16, where basically you can create a new life with no problem. You get friends for. I moved that I was almost 30, so it's a different mindset. Like you don't want to go out for party. You just see this as a different opportunity to start your own business, your own activity, your family. And Canada works way different than Italy. Italy is a beautiful country. There are a lot of opportunities. The problem is the more you work, if you're working for someone, more they ask you to work. If you
Mm.
70 hours a week, they don't tell you, oh, thank you, great job. They say, oh, you just work 70 hours? Like, it just, it's different. Well, here you work hard, and your boss say, well, you know what? You're doing great. The company it's improving. It's like, I want to keep you. They don't try just to take advantage of you. And unfortunately, that's what's happening right now in Italy. There are a
Mm.
lot of good companies that they're amazing. If you look, example, Aprilia, Ducati, Lamborghini, even if he's technically German, it's.
Sure.
But there are great companies, Safilo, the company that make Ray-Ban and everything else, and they just treat their employee properly, right? So,
Mm.
and that they have the North American mentality, and that was the part that was really interesting for me.
I disagree with you, man.
Oh yeah.
I work for a company that has that. Oh, you've only worked 70 hours? What happened to the other 10 that you were
Yeah,
sleeping?
that's
What about the other 10? I scheduled a podcast every Monday and Wednesday.
yeah,
I think I'm going to be slowing it down to once a week. Twice a week, it's an insane pace. But even at once a week, the one day I cannot, well, there's
yeah.
2 days I cannot work, but one of them definitely is Thursday because I have calls with my Indian office from
Oh, nice.
10:30 at night till 3 in the morning. So I
But
don't know.
see, like it depends from company to company and business to business. Because example, I see all these, and again, I'm not at all an IT person. Put me in front of a motorcycle, absolutely, I can stay there days, weeks, years. Put me in front of a computer, I'm just gonna look at like I'm doing looking at you and say, wow, that's cool. And all these IT guy, there is a new generation. I grew up with work hard. One day you're gonna have your reward. And right now I see those 16 years old, 14 years old YouTuber that they're flying private jet and say, okay, I'm doing something wrong now. It's all a different world, right? So
Yeah.
technology, of course, helped a lot on relaxing the way that you are working because
Yes.
allowed you to do instead driving the car, meeting together and do like on a studio. uh, we're doing, I'm at my house and you are at yours, right? So that's perfect. And the same works in general, right? I was reading an article about the possibility for Yamaha to don't have for the first race of MotoGP their own technician because they're Australian and there is the ban for flying and everything else. And they deal pretty quickly. They say, okay, they just do a live chat. One was the electronic guy, and I think the other one was suspension. So they kind of managed that things pretty easy. For me, it was like a drama. Oh my god, I don't have my mechanic, as it was gonna happen.
Right. Yeah, this is I mean, obviously a crazy time we're living in, and I don't get sick of talking about it now, partly because I don't read the news. I don't read the Toronto news. I don't read the local news. And by the way, guys, if you're listening to podcasts, we're both from Toronto now, so it's an easy podcast. It's kind of a shame that we're not meeting in person, right? We just need a piece of plexiglass in front of us. We gotta have a nice discussion. But long story short is, I don't get sick of talking about it because I don't read the news enough. So I don't really have a take on it. I am just thankful that, we're still able to do
That's right.
our thing, right? Our daily jobs. And so I want to get into that a little bit because I actually met you again because you liked one of my Instagram posts and I didn't know that there was Ohvale was in Canada. I said this a little in the beginning. And I was very happy to see that we have a Canadian representative in here. One of the things that Brendan had told me, who was Ohvale USA, main importer, he said, it's next to impossible to get that business. So maybe you can tell me a little bit about how you're able to convince them that, hey, it's coming
Yeah,
time to come to Canada.
and I'm gonna be happy, but you're gonna be thinking that I'm crazy. So, you know, um, when I left Italy, of course, Vale was kind of exploding at that time. But
Mm.
I left Italy, so I'm going to a cold country. I didn't forget about motorcycle because that's my biggest passion. But at the same time, you stop researching what is the newest stuff and the new technology. You just see it on the background, right? You see the post on Instagram, on Facebook, some YouTube videos, some YouTuber that post something new. But being here at one point, I said, okay, I need to find something. So like I see that in Canada there is something missing that are the young riders. So it's really a big segment that it's missing, especially because talking with Colin from CSBK and other riders, the main issue that there is right now is that the big trucks are not, the insurance basically they don't cover under 16 years old, and some insurance they cover just past 12 years old. So before there is not really racing. And talking with other riders in the past, there was the pocket bike, like in Italy, like in Europe, everywhere, right?
Right.
But something went wrong, and it continued in the West Coast. So Alberta, BC, Saskatoon, but here in Toronto, Ontario, Quebec, it kind of died. So, I started to do my own research, following all the different Ohvale around the world, Ohvale USA, so Brandon, and last October I was in Italy. So I send an email. I literally, that's what happened, right? I literally sent an email, and they ignore me basically for a week and a half. And the last 3 days that I was there, they say, hey, we have our international event in Adria, that is an amazing racetrack that they have car and motorcycle track, and they have one of the best European go-kart track over there. It's brand new. I think it's 5 or 6 years old.
Okay.
And Marika, that is one of the business partner, said, come over there, we can have a chat. And I said, okay, well, that's the best shot that I have to try to get their interest. We spent, I think, 2.5 hours, almost 3 hours talking. And she said, okay, you're unlucky that Brandon is not here. He's going to be here tomorrow. I said, can you stay? And I said, well, I have a flight to go back to Toronto tomorrow morning, so I'm not going to be able. And back and forth, talking with Brandon. And that happened. They said, what? Let's give it a shot. And, it was scary under one point because it was winter here when they say, hey, you can start. But it was really hard to get into the indoor go-kart track because they got burned in the past from the two strokes. Too much smoke, too loud, and nobody want to stay there because the two stroke, for how beautiful engine is and powerful and whatever, smell and you can't breathe. So when we did a private test with Champion Cycle, that is in North York, and the owner said, wow, I'm surprised. They are not loud, they are not smoky, looks a lot of fun. So from there basically everything started, and here we go. We are, we had a couple of chats with CSBK. So there is a person that is organizing a championship for next year, for the summer, and there is a lot of things coming. Good thing. And Brandon, we don't want Moto America helped a lot because as you're in Canada for longer than me, and what every single rider told me said, whatever Moto America does, CSBK does after. They get second always. And I said, well, let's try to see if we can get some really good talent and maybe to be first this time against the States.
Yeah. That is super exciting to me. I think that it's long overdue that we have a series that is meant for the younger kids to get into. I think the pocket bikes didn't work because I don't know, they were just too small. Yeah, you could get some kids on it, but it wasn't a sustainable. It didn't look like a proper bike. I mean, yes, it's a pocket bike, it looks like a racing bike, but if you look at the Ohvales and you didn't have a perspective, you didn't have a tall guy standing beside it, you couldn't tell that it wasn't a proper, race bike, right? And that's very attractive.
I'm 6'2" for
Oh, wow.
6'2" for 190 pounds. So When I stand beside an Ohvale, people say, "Oh, you're like I look like funny. Like what I'm gonna do?" When they step on top of the bike and they ride it for even half of the lap, if they stop and they open their visor on the helmet, they have the biggest smile they ever had. Even better than going to the dealership and turn the key on your brand new motorcycle. It's just different. So I think that the best quality of Ovale is they really found the spot. So it's not too big, it's not too small. The quality of the materials and construction and everything else, it's over the top. Um, and it's perfect because it really simulates riding a bike, a race bike. Like for
Mm.
me, it's like the movement, the training that you get on top of Ovale. It's even better than doing like 3 hours at the gym and try on top of a bench. No, it doesn't work. Like you get
Mm.
on top of this one, you have fun, you go crazy. Even if you slide from what 20 inches from the floor. Your high side, there is a couple of videos of just sharing having on the high side. Still, it's probably a foot too,
Right. Right.
right? It's hard. Like you can get hurt, but it's really hard. And it's that's what you want. Like if you have a kid or your brother or your neighbor's kid, you don't want that they get hurt. So the best way is starting with something that give you the feeling of the speed, the technical, the
Mm.
position, the
Mm.
training, and you can go right. It's all step by step, right?
Yeah, and Young Lee from M1GP in the States said the same thing. He's like, if you crash on a mini bike or an Ovale, you dust yourself off, you pick yourself up, and you go again the next
Yeah,
session, right? Because you're not gonna get the injuries that you would get on a real street bike.
that's correct. It's pretty that's what a lot of people don't understand. And that's, I think it's partially it's Canada. Everybody has the heat of getting on a bike because the
Mm.
winter is so long.
Mm.
When we introduced the idea of having maybe a winter series, something that you can ride indoor all winter, you can keep be trained. You don't need to go with your dirt bike on a frozen lake and freeze your anything
Yeah.
that you have on your body.
Right.
Just take an Ovale, you put it in the back of your car. No, you don't need a truck, you don't need a trailer, you don't need anything of these. You just put it in the back seat. It fits. It fits on a Fiat 500. When I found that picture, I couldn't believe it, and I
Really.
for the client, and they say, "Wow!" And that's the best thing. Toronto, there are a lot of condos, and you can keep it technically in your living room or in the closet if you have a wife, a girlfriend. You say, "No, I'll keep it there."
Yeah.
Nobody want to see that.
Yeah, I got a couple of friends who used to put their bikes in the living room in the summer, right? So
Yeah,
I
wow,
totally get
that's
it.
if it was for me, yeah, then my living room there will be pieces of bikes, everything, but my wife doesn't think the same.
No, right? Um, is there a chance of them ever being street legal? And I ask because I really think that that's the last, I would say 5 to 10% of the secret sauce. Okay, not everybody's going to invest the time. Yeah, I know you can put it in a car and drive it, but not everybody's going to invest their time. And let's be honest, between you and me, if you want to do an outdoor track,
Yeah.
where's the closest track, right? It's going to be at least 45 minutes to an hour away from Toronto. Okay. So,
Yes and no, because
okay.
you have two that are in Toronto. You can race indoor, and doesn't matter what's the time of the year. Like example, we started with 401 mini Indy, and
Mm,
it's literally on the 401,
yep.
and you can reach, like I'm from Mississauga, you can reach like in literally what 15-20 minutes drive.
True. True.
And that was one of the key. And there are other tracks that, unfortunately, with this COVID, they kind of put a lot on hold. And with Ovale, you normally try to race on go-kart tracks
Mm.
because they're more fun than racing on a B track. They have long straight. It doesn't go fast as an R6 or on a Yamaha R1 or Ducati or anything, right?
Right.
So you want to spend more time leaning than straight.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty, right? So it's something that is getting there. It can be forced, but there is different tracks that are approaching us and say, hey, what about you have an event on my go-kart track this time? What about if I'm interested to have a fleet for rentals and stuff like that, right? So things are starting to move. As I said before, COVID was an easy period for anybody, especially for those tracks, because they leave the majority, especially the outdoor one, on 5 or 6 months that they have available, right?
Yeah.
So when you shut down for 2.5 and you put limitation on how many people you can have on a racetrack at the same time, and people have the fear, because media, that's what they did, they created fear. So
Yeah.
but the point, going back on road legal, I don't think it's the idea of Ohvale, to be honest, because they want the racing for the kids, so they wanna, and not only for the kids, for adults, but they want that segment. If I'm not wrong, there is someone in the States trying to make it road legal. I got a client that wanted to buy and say, don't worry, I'll take care. I say, hey, I'll sell it to you. You can deal, you can do whatever you want. So like, but I'm sure it's not coming from Ohvale.
Yeah. No, and I understand. You want to do something extremely well. You want to focus on that,
Right.
do it extremely well. No, I completely understand. So I'm assuming then there is a lot of excitement. There's a lot of hype in and around Ontario and the rest of Canada on this Ohvale
Absolutely.
bike. Okay.
Yeah, there
Okay.
is a lot of movement, and it's the biggest challenge, of course, is it's move around. And Canada, it's not the smallest country on the world.
Yeah.
So if you say, oh, I'm just gonna go to a racetrack in Quebec, it's 5 to 6 hours, right?
Yeah.
So we're planning to have two events in August over there. There is a lot of requests on the BC, Alberta, Calgary area. They're calling basically every week to have an event over there, but it's a little bit like logistic. It's a problem for the logistics, right?
Yeah.
But we're working on. It's one step at a time. If you consider we brought the first the first bikes in December. Those were the first 3 bikes that landed in Canada. So I think we're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
But again, it's one step at a time.
Yeah.
There is no reason to burn this amazing market and this amazing idea, because what we really want to do, it's not all about money. We really want to grow the sport, because if you don't interest the kids right now that they have no fear to go on a motorcycle, everybody's going to go play basketball, baseball, or hockey. Majority of hockey, of course, here, trying to score big. But motorcycle, it's motorcycle. When you try one, that's it.
I agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more with that. I've always enjoyed the idea of riding bikes, and I actually got my bike fairly young age. I got it when I was 17.
Wow.
Which is young for Canadian standard. Okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, your history is different, but yeah, not too bad. 17, I got my bike, and I remember though the first time I rode a motorcycle in Chicago area.
Oh, wow.
If you don't know, in Chicago area, there's no helmet law.
Oh, really?
There's only 2 states, I think. Definitely Illinois is one of them. Is you are not required to wear a helmet to ride a
Nice.
bike.
Well, nice. I don't know about nice. It must be a good feeling, because that's what we were doing on a dirt bike on our field when you are like 14, 12, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's scary.
It is to me as like the best feeling in the world. And this is when I had hair and I was gelled up like big time. And I got off the bike, my hair was like Goki, right? It was just like straight up, like it was the coolest hair ever.
Perfect.
Yeah, that was amazing. So no, I understand what you're saying. It is, we really need to get the youth involved, right? Because when your youths are involved, they're excited, they get their parents excited, and the parents are the ones with money, so they're going to invest in the sport in the long term. Now, the only snag that I have is I personally feel that, look, racing is an expensive sport.
It is. It is really expensive.
Right? And you probably know this, I'm not saying hockey's dying, but hockey's not as popular as it once was. You get more people who are not natural Canadians who weren't born in Canada. They bring their kids. They're like, well, I can put them on a soccer field for minimum fees, or
Yeah,
I could spend hundreds of dollars to get equipment.
that's right.
How do we bridge that gap? Or is it
So
possible?
it is absolutely possible, and the majority, for what I see, and again, I see from European. So I grew up in Italy. You see the Chev in Spain. You see the BSB, and like even in Italy, uh, what you can do to help the young sponsorship. So if you can attract some of those big sponsors, that they help to have a proper series, and you do invitation and you do all this stuff, and you put prizes that can be take your kid to this shop and just get a brand new leather suit or little things. But if you think you told me that you start to ride fairly young, um, going on a motorcycle, it's crazy expensive if you think
Hmm.
about it, right?
Oh yeah.
It's not just buying the worst piece of garbage that you can find on Kijiji or at the time, or it's not that. It's whatever you need to put in. If you don't do the proper service, if you don't have the right protection, if you don't use the right oil, whatever it is, right? Uh, you can get seriously hurt.
Mm.
That's what you don't want. So why going cheap on something that save your life, right?
Mm.
I see a lot of these leather suit coming from Pakistan, coming from other places that they offer for $200 Canadian shipped here.
Mm.
So I'm gonna be honest, I got one to see what was. There was cardboard inside. There is no protection.
Really?
Cardboard to
Wow.
make the protection for the back.
Yeah.
I said, like, I'm gonna invest $200 because it feels like a good letter, so then I will suggest to my clients. Absolutely, like I have no interest on making money on that stuff. But if it's not good, I will be the first one telling them, no, don't save on that stuff. Don't save on an element coming from, I don't know, AliExpress. You don't save anything over there, like, right?
Yeah.
So if you going back on the sport to kind of close that gap, the idea is that, so if we can prove to the media, if we can prove to big company that to play in our market too, that's where you close the gap, right? Because they will be the part that help to get more sponsorship, to reduce the cost of racing and everything else, right? Sometimes when I was young, for me the biggest things that you can do was offering me tires.
Mm.
You go to a racetrack, that's it, done. You have one or two sets in a weekend, right? Even
Yeah.
three, depends
Yeah.
on what you're trying to do. But yeah, like one of my friends was sponsored Michelin, and that's what he do, right? He had free tires, and he was giving me tires for free, and I said, wow, that's where I want to go. Like
Right.
$450 per set start to be expensive. So what you do, you start to go a little bit slower, a little bit more careful, and you don't enjoy anymore because you're more worried about money. While instead, if you bring big sponsor that they help the kids grow, that's the bingo, right?
Yeah.
If you see, I was looking Moto America, the mini cup,
Yeah.
and I think what they did over there, it's amazing. I told Brandon, I don't know how many times he's an inspiration because he worked so hard to get this stuff going, and look at that, they had over 50, I think it was like about 50 kids racing, and so much interest, right? Everybody was watching those kids, and that's what they want, right? And again, American racing team, John Hopkins just took 3 kids in the team.
Mm.
This happened, that looked like the Christmas, right? For some
Right.
of these, and that's what you want to do, right? That's you want to make them feel that that's the sport, that's the way that the sport is.
Yeah.
The pit life. That's the best part for me.
Yeah. When I interviewed Joe Lamondre and his son Joey,
Yeah,
he's racing in I think he's in the Motul Junior Racing Junior Cup or
Yeah.
whatever. I'm terrible with names, by the way. Anyways, yeah, they said, the best times is when dad and son are bonding. They're prepping the bike. They were, safety wiring everything. They're going through the bike, make sure everything's working. Those are some of the best father and son time ever. So I think that's an angle that we should be pushing, is like, how precious, how much money is it worth for you to spend quality time with your 15-year-old? In this day and age, nobody talks to a 15-year-old. I know when I was 15, the last thing I wanted to do was have a conversation with my parents, right? And I'm sure you the same, right?
That's true. For me, it was just getting out of the house. That's it. As
Exactly.
quick as possible was coming back from school, hitting the table for lunch, and get out right away. That was and my mom was so pissed. But hey,
Yeah.
we're in once, so
Exactly. So I actually do want to ask you about that.
yeah,
How is it that Italy, as big as a country is, a small
yeah.
country in the end, but how are you guys so passionate about motorcycles? How have you developed so many world champions? It's insane.
But see, that's the part. We have a lot of racetrack, and I want to say that the weather helps, right?
Mm,
Like during the winter, it's cold, but it's short, right?
mm,
As I told you, like you can still go ride in December in North Italy, so that's cold. In South Italy, it's the center, like that's another thing. Like
mm,
Rome, like Sicily, Calabria, all that area, it's like even Emilia Romagna, it's around where in Tuscany, Mugello, Misano, all that area, like it's beautiful. Like the weather is pretty constant, right? So there is no up and down. It's pretty mild. And I don't know. Like I think it's just like the passion for engine. We have the and again I don't want to sound cocky, but we have probably one of the best engineer for whatever it's motorcycle, for whatever it's cars, right? It's just like different, and the fact that you grew up with so in Italy you start driving a car, you can get the license after 18 years old, while here is
mm.
16.
Right.
So until that point, the only way to go fast is getting a motorcycle, like usually a 125 or a 250, a dirt bike, or getting a moped, a scooter.
Mm, right.
So when you are 14, before 14, that's the only things that you want. Like you can't see anything else. You have 14, and everybody's used to the Vespa, to everything else. So you grow up that everybody knows how to ride, because
Mm,
that's the first step before you start to move with a car and everything else. So it gets in your DNA.
yeah.
Girls, nanas, like the grandma, like everybody, like it's funny, like it's amazing. I
It's,
was um, listening to your podcast with Brandon. He was describing that part in Thailand, that they were going through the forest with the dirt bike, and this classic little lady like on the scooter. They were going through the forest on the same stuff. And needless to say, you see like the 75, 80 years old grandma that is going to get her bread on Sunday morning with a scooter, no helmet, and goes in front of the police. And the police, they say, yeah, they say hi. That's it. They don't do nothing.
yeah.
Okay? Uh, that's a different culture for me. And again, a scooter it's relative cheap
Yep.
to buy, so that's what everybody does. And motorcycle, it's your goal, because my father had Giacomo Agostini, and his father had other riders. And
Mm,
I grew up with Valentino Rossi, Max Biaggi, Capirossi. If you watch Superbike, it was like Pier Francesco Chili, and
mm.
one after the other, right? So it's impossible. Like you just get that part.
Yeah.
Hey,
Um,
around the world, they're growing up like really good talent. Like Spain did an amazing job in the last 15 years. Like I'm impressed. Like they did such an amazing job. France is doing the same. Uh,
mm,
UK was all like I want to say that probably UK, Spain, and Italy are probably the top as culture for motorcycle. And hey, all the rest is coming out.
yeah.
There's a lot of um, Asian country right now. They are helping young to race, and that's amazing. That's one of the best things that they could ever do. Australia. Australia is doing so many different championships for category to try to help, again, kids, teenagers to get on two wheels. That's just, for me, it's just awesome.
Yeah, no, I mean, I gotta say, even a scooter or a moped, I'll call it a scooter. Even scooters are really fun. I was in when I went to Sorrento, I also took a boat to Capri,
Yeah.
and I didn't spend I only spent a day there. It's only a daytime trip, but I wanted to rent a scooter because I wanted to get around the island. And so, and they were just having a laugh with me. They were just making fun of me. So they rented me the worst looking, most girly looking scooter. It had hearts all over the bike. It had
Nice.
their big logo, right? And they just thought, they're just to me, I could not care less because I hadn't been on a scooter or a bike in maybe 5 years at that time. I hadn't ridden in a while. Maybe not 5 years. Maybe that's a little too long. But in a couple years at least.
Yeah.
So it was my first motorcycle, first moped,
Yeah.
my first like scooter experience in like 2 years, and I was. Oh well, no, actually, I went to Thailand that year before, so that was when I had the scooter too. But
Oh,
my point was, I didn't care. You could have given me the biggest piece of crap, the pinkest bike, and I had so much fun. Yeah.
I get it. I kind of miss those little things because, like when you're young, the only things you want to do is going fast and be stupid. So
Yeah.
like, popping wheelies everywhere because they were 50s, right? Like you just need to lean a little bit and, you were popping those wheelies in front of the police, in front of the grandmother that's going to church in the morning. That's what you want to do.
Yeah. So I was thinking about your good problem to have, which is the East Coast wants racing series, the West Coast wants a racing series.
That's right.
Have you ever thought of an East versus West? So for example, you have two racing organization. They're the same organization, but you hold a bunch of races in the East Coast. You hold a bunch of races in the West Coast. And then at the end of the year, maybe you have two or three events at the very end of the year where you kind of pick a track for that year, like you do in the Grey Cup, right? Every year
Yeah.
you pick a city for the Grey Cup, and then you have maybe one or two races, and that decides the Canadian champion. Is that something you guys have thought of?
It's something that we talk about. There is a lot of organization over there, different rules, and when you have like an association like CSBK and all the different association, Calgary, Alberta, like everywhere, everyone has his own rule, and the main the most difficult part is trying to make everybody happy. As you know, doesn't matter if it's motorcycle, car racing, hockey, you need to make everybody happy. To
Yeah.
make everybody happy, you need to try to have the same amount of events, the same sponsor, and that's
Mm.
hard part because some sponsors that have interest in the east they don't have in the west, and vice versa.
Right.
um, there is travel cost that it's insanely expensive. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I was thinking that, like, for whatever, I never been to the States. I know it sounds silly, but I never been to the States. They told me that um, flying between a city to the other, it's relatively cheap.
Yeah.
While here in Canada, flying from Toronto to Montreal, for me, it's insane. Like, it shouldn't be that much money, but
Exactly.
it is, right?
Yes.
So when you start to think that you have to travel like 3 hour time zone, like and go to BC for a race, that's a week, right?
Mm.
And
Yep.
because here, and I was talking with Ben Young and even with Thomas Casas from CSBK. The main issue that there is right now is there is not enough sponsor that will support the riders, right?
Mm.
They're basically, yeah, of course, like BMW, Yamaha, Kawasaki, Suzuki, they all sponsor as they can, but
Mm.
it's the Canadian way.
Mm.
And it's challenging because if you have a normal job and you ride, you are a CSBK rider during the weekend, you still need to find a compromise to between your job and your passion because right, it's hard. But again, we are in the works. There is a lot going on right now, and the idea will be unite, maybe create like one big championship divided from west and east, and have like one or two races where the top 3 or the top 10 and top 10, and they race together, and
Yes.
you do like maybe a 3 round or a double header, and it's all in, right?
Yes.
There is as I said before, there is a lot to try to organize. It's something that might come in the next couple of years. For sure, Ovale will help because East Coast and West Coast, they both want those bikes. So it's something that will kind of mediate all this big difference.
Yeah.
And as you know, like between East and West, they're always, I'm the best. Right.
And I think that is the human story that will sell it to the public, right? You can really get around your rider because he's from Ontario. Ontario sucks. I'm from Vancouver. Yay, Vancouver, right?
Yeah.
Or Calgary, right? Both of you guys suck. It's Calgarians.
Yeah.
So that is now. Have you guys ever thought of producing a mini, maybe it's a web series, a mini documentary that follows the life and development of Canadian superbike riders to promote the sport? I think one of the things that, even for me, who loved motorcycles at one time, was fanatic about it. By the way, I at one time almost caught Jordan Zoke's helmet when he threw it into the crowd. It actually hit my hand. And to this day, I cannot forgive myself, right? Because I literally was, as he threw the helmet, I looked away and I had my hand on the railing. I looked away for a second, and by the time I realized what had happened, it already hit my hand and fell and I'm like, oh, like literally I could have just went like this as opposed to this, and I would have got it. So anyways, to this day is one of my biggest regret. But what I'm trying to say is, yeah, we need a web series to get Canadians more familiar with the fact that, hey, Ohvale bikes are not dangerous. They're not your dad's R6. They're not your dad's, CBR 1000, right? Number two, it's safe. It's COVID safe because it's inherently socially distanced. You're not bumping into each other, right? I think there's a lot of legs. I've thought very, very deeply about this idea, by the way. There's a reason to do it.
Yeah, it's something that it pops in your head, and we talk about a lot, and the problem there, it's only one, and for me it's called time. To create a web series, you need tons of time, and right now what we're trying to do is, as I said before, yes, business is business. You want to try to make sales and everything else. But what we want to really try to do right now is here in Canada, it's what happened in the States. And what in Italy, as I told you before, like you grew up that you want to go on a motorcycle. In America, North America, it's a different story. So what Brandon did over there was amazing. We want to create the interest. We want to show you the quality of the bike. So even those events that hopefully you can take part soon on the next one, and come and test one of those bikes if you never did. It's just having the people feeling how is riding one of those little things. And when you start to organize an event for a Sunday or for a Saturday, it takes time. What we did is we got some shots, some videos, some short GoPros, and that's something that we are, there is always the thought to say, maybe we should do a documentary on that. Maybe we should do a web series. And, for now we're collecting data, but it's there. Good. It's something that it's really good, and I agree with you. It's something that will create a lot of interest.
Yeah, and maybe I should say this offline, but I won't, and I'll edit out if I have to. But I would love to help out in some way. I've done some editing in the past, and I'd love to help out in any way I can. I really want the sport to grow.
And trust me, that's my priority. As I said, like for me, when you see the little kid in the pit, example, like last year they did SOAR. I didn't attend all the races, but just see the little kid with his tiny motorcycle that is like a 49cc with a long motor engine, and but he's going around the pit with his father that he has the letter, he's going to change the tire, and that kid is the happiest kid on the planet.
Mm,
That's what
mm,
I want. Like I
mm.
just truly want to see the sport grow
Yeah.
because it's something that I missed because my parents weren't at all even close to be petrol head. Nothing. There is nothing related to motorcycle, nothing related to sport car, nothing. So I was kind of like the black sheep of the family. But that's what you want, right? For me, it's just passion. Like see somebody else enjoying what I truly believe it's one of the best sports on the planet.
Okay, we're back. There was a bit of a technical difficulty. For whatever reason, the video just stopped recording by itself. I do apologize. That was kind of odd. That's beyond my control. But still, as Canadians, we have to apologize, right? That's
That's
what
right.
we do.
That's right.
And when you come to Canada, the first question is, what do you do whenever something happens? And it's always the answer is you apologize.
Yeah, that's right. Like I couldn't believe the first time I was in this class as I told you before, and they told me, say, like in Canada, if you have your own drink and someone spill it, you say sorry. And I say, no, it doesn't work like that in Italy. Like if someone spill you the drink, he's gonna buy you a new one, and you're probably be really upset. They say, no, in Canada you have to say sorry. Someone step on your foot, you say sorry. No, it doesn't work like that for real. I couldn't believe it at the beginning, but yeah, that's right.
So when are you going to be full time back to racing with coronavirus being just up and down? Like, what's
Okay,
going to happen?
so well, so as I said, the main idea is getting to have like with Oval at least 2 events a month,
Mm,
and that there are going to be track days or mini weekends. So basically, it's like a racing weekend where you do like the qualification, like all the hot lap on the Saturday, and you do on the Sunday like a small race or something like just to put people like in the idea of what's gonna come for next year, and from now until the next season, because during the winter we're gonna run anyway indoor racetrack, and people are just that's what they're craving, right?
mm,
Because as for me, I have a Yamaha R6 brand new last year, and for the racetrack, as you can see, right? And
yes.
when I park it in my garage and never been parked, like I move like every couple of inches, my neighbor hits me, but I can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So Ovale will, of course, keep you in training because
Yeah.
yes, you can go to the gym, but as I said, that's not the same.
Yeah. How is the grip difference between the indoor track? Because like for one Indy, if I remember correctly, it's pretty slippery for a go-kart. Now, part of the fact is, the go-karts aren't in the best shape. It's not
Yeah,
exactly slicks.
well, like it's the difference is between concrete and asphalt, right? So in on a go-kart track, especially indoor, it's polished concrete, and they basically what they do, they put this kind of rubber, it's liquid rubber on top to create some kind of grip.
Ah.
On a motorcycle, so motorcycle on Ovale, the PMT, that is the brand that make the tires, they create a special compound, and it's a compound. It's called R, and that is for 6.5 inches, 10 inches, 12 inches. So they cover from the pocket bike to the up to the pit bike, and that's an amazing tire for indoor. Like
Hmm.
you feel so much grip that you can't believe. We run with soft, that technically it's not the best uh, compound for indoor on polished concrete, but we never had a problem. Like
Hmm.
I don't know if you saw the video on Champion Cycle when we had the guys from CSBK. We had
Yes.
Kenny Reedman, Thomas Casas, Ben Young, Trevor Daly, and they had a blast. Like they were just going. They like if it was the last race of the championship. Like they didn't save anything on those bikes.
I saw
But
the
the bike
video. Yeah.
but the bike didn't break. They had a blast. The grip was pretty good, and we're talking the outside was minus 25. So
Wow.
doesn't matter how cold is outside. Even the concrete, it will not be asphalt in July, right? But they handle pretty good. Like they're amazing. Like you have a lot of fun. Probably even indoor, you train even better if it's a little bit slippery, because you get
Mm,
control of the bike. Look,
correct.
Marcus, look, Valentino, look how they handle the bike on situation where I will just pray. I will just leave the bike and say, whatever happened, please be safe, right? And they just put down the elbow, the knee, the shoulder, and they come up. For me, it's just magic. Like those are talent, right? But they
Yeah,
train a lot. So
yeah. And they all train on mini motos. They all train on small bikes.
small bikes, because first you reduce the risk of getting injury. Look,
Mm.
example, Andrea Dovizioso, training on big bike. It's a dirt bike. It's easy to break stuff. Like and he broke what, like 3 weeks from the first race.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would be scared to train on a dirt bike, to be
Oh,
honest. If racing was my primary job, road racing was my primary job, I'd be worried.
well, like if you look, Valentino Rossi got two injury. I think was 2010 and 2012, something like that. He broke his leg and other stuff doing dirt bikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an amazing way to train, but high risk, and you throw a season out. So at
How,
that level, it's a lot.
yeah. How many more seasons do you think Rossi's got left in him?
Rossi, again, you're asking like like everybody asks me the same question, right? Because I'm Italian, because my last name is De Rossi, so everybody's,
Well,
oh yeah, I think, as everybody say, until he has fun riding and he doesn't feel that he has to be there, he will
mm,
be good. If you consider, he's 41 years old,
yeah.
and he compete with guys that have 15 years less, and he's faster than those ones.
Mm,
So everybody say that he's done, but
yeah. Well,
again, that's my personal opinion.
yeah.
That in the last 5 years, his performance are not as 10 years ago. Yeah, but everybody gets older, right? Uh,
Sure.
and Rossi is not riding anymore for the money. He's riding because he's passionate of.
Right. Yeah.
So if we can get that part, I was listening to a podcast about Lewis Hamilton. That he's trying. I know we're stepping in F1,
No, it's all
but
good.
he's trying to do something really good on try to get more kids on go kart. And partially what Rossi was trying to do with the Wear 46 Academy, it's kind of the same idea, getting talent in the field.
Mm,
Um, it's something that it's taking a little bit more time than what was the original idea, but I think it's the best, because if you had the biggest motorcycle, one of the biggest motorcycle rider in the world, trying to promote the sport, bringing new people that maybe they never had the budget to even be there, right?
yeah.
He introduced to sponsorship and everything else. That's what you want to do, and that's what I think about the mini cup um, with Moto America. That's what's going to happen. You're going to have the new Nicky Iden, Edwards, like all these people, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Like,
yeah. And I'm really hoping that one of our young Canadian kids will break through into the international scene.
well, look, Torin Collins. He's
Mm,
uh, he's from Calgary, Alberta. He's right now. He's I think today he had the first race of the season. He's racing in Spain.
okay.
Yeah, he's a pretty good talent. We have Philip De Gama, and he's a young kid, really talented. He's racing in the Calgary area.
Mm,
He's racing with their association over there, and his father bought an Ohvale. He bought a 110 for speed, and he crashed the lap record of the first race.
oh wow.
Uh, you know, there are talents. We have a lot. It's just sometimes you have to polish the diamonds or the gold, to make it shine, right?
Right.
To polish those one, you need to you need some help, and
Yeah.
sometimes we can try to do as much as we can, helping them with parts, discount and stuff like that. But if someone is really talented, it's gonna come out.
Yeah, no, that's true. So how do we follow you? How do we follow Valley Canada on
So
social?
so you can just the best way it's of course Instagram. You can just search Ohvale Canada, and we have our Facebook page. That's the main part, because I don't want to go on the business side. That's another stuff. But it's mainly follow us. You can see that we are trying to do as much as we can to help this sport to raise the future of the Canadian motorcycle. And hey, we never that I know there was no Canadian in MotoGP.
Mm,
So let's try. Why
yeah,
not?
yeah,
Let's
let's do it.
like a short-term goal.
That is a great goal to get behind. I'll definitely support you in any way I can. That is the dream.
Perfect.
All right, dude. Thank you so much for taking the time speaking with me. We're both in the same city, so it's getting a bit late.
Yeah,
So,
worry. I never sleep, so the motorcycle inside my brain. So don't worry.
okay, sounds good. Let's do a catch up
Yeah,
probably at the end of the season or the end of
absolutely.
the year. But in the meantime, we'll keep in touch.
But come out and test the bike. Absolutely.
Okay, it sounds good.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you so
I'll talk
much.
to you soon.
Take
Bye
care.
now.